My name is Justin D'Souza. I'm a quantitative specialist here at Statistics Solutions. During today's webinar, we are going to discuss SPSS data cleaning and management steps. I'm going to go through the entire presentation first, and at the end of the presentation, we will have a question and answer session. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box or the question and answer box. My colleague Isaides will be assisting with questions during the webinar. She'll be providing some hyperlinks in the chat box. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I'm going to start out by giving a brief overview of the services that our company Statistics Solutions provides. We'll then discuss SPSS data cleaning and management. I will be going through a sample data set to show you the steps that you should typically take to clean your data set so it's ready for analysis. We'll conclude with a summary and a question and answer session. And we will be sending everyone a copy of the webinar. You should be receiving that tomorrow, as well as a copy of the presentation. Our company, Statistics Solutions, provides assistance with every part of the dissertation. So no matter where you are, if you've hit a roadblock, we do have specialists here who can assist you. So we have methodologists who are both specialized in quantitative and qualitative studies, and we have literature review specialists. So depending on where you need help, you may receive one specialist or multiple specialists. If you're doing a mixed method study that has quantitative and qualitative components, then you will receive specialists for both quantitative and qualitative studies. So we help with topic development, prospectus and concept papers, the proposal chapters, IRB forms, entering your data into spreadsheets. We have our own SurveyMonkey account in which we can help host your survey for you on SurveyMonkey. We help with both quantitative and qualitative results chapters, the discussion chapter, PowerPoints for proposal and final defenses, as well as journal publication. So once you're done with your dissertation or your thesis, we can help you condense your paper into a journal so it's ready for publication. If you've hit a roadblock and you need assistance, or you just want an idea of how we can assist, you can schedule a free consultation at 727-442-4290. On this slide, I have a list of the webinars that we will be conducting in the future, as well as past webinars we have conducted already. So you can take a look at those. So for today's topic, what are the first steps you want to make when cleaning your data? So I do have a sample spreadsheet we will be going through. So generally what you want to do is first, you want to take a look at the data you have, whether it's an Excel or SPSS or a CSV file, and you kind of want to eyeball the spreadsheet first for missing responses. How is the data coded? Is it numeric? Is it string? Is it ordinal? You want an idea of what your final sample size may be. Then you want to add an ID column. So every participant in your study has a numeric identifier. Typically, you want to de-identify your data so you don't have names, phone numbers, addresses, things like that. So just a random numeric identifier so you can keep track of everybody in your study. Then you want to name all the variables in your spreadsheet. So you want a short phrase to describe every variable. And then a general point is you're going to want to save your spreadsheet multiple times. So anytime you make an adjustment, whether it's recoding something, eliminating participants due to non-responses, outliers, every time you change the spreadsheet, you'll want to make a new copy of that spreadsheet. That way you can go back to a previous version if you ever want to. So let's take a look at a sample spreadsheet I have here. So this is a client that I worked with, and they collected data on 3 parts: leadership effectiveness, job satisfaction, and organizational performance. So these are Likert scale questions. You can see it ranges from strongly agree to strongly disagree and so forth. As I look in data view, we can see we have a combination of numeric data and we have string data, so variables written out in words. Ultimately, we are going to want to change these to numeric. So that's just a mental point to make right now. You do see some missing responses. So we have participants who failed to respond after providing consent. They just dropped out. So generally, you'll want to remove those people. If someone missed a question here or there, just a random item in the middle of the survey, you can consider taking those people out if you have a very large sample size that exceeds your power analysis requirement. So typically in methodologies, you do a power analysis to figure out your minimum sample size. And if you're well above that, then you can consider just dealing with a spreadsheet that is complete. So participants that even miss one response, they could potentially come out if you're safe on the sample size. But we will discuss alternatives to that, where you can replace this missing value with the average or the median. So we'll look at that. So the first things we need to do are add an ID column. So I typically make that first column in the spreadsheet. So I will add a variable right here, and we'll call that ID. And let's see how many people we have. We have 91 participants. So I'm going to go into Excel and just start a list from 1 to 91. So you can start the list and drag down. But everybody will have a numeric identifier. And this is really useful because then if you do change the order of the spreadsheet for whatever reason, say I sort this column in ascending order, now it's in a completely different order, but I can sort the ID column that we just made in ascending order, and it reverts back to its original format. That's a good way for both keeping track of people and reverting your spreadsheet back to its original order. The next thing is identifying all the variables of interest and creating a name for them. We did have a demographic question here. I'll just call it years of service. You can see the label is here. We need to give it a name. So years of service without any spaces. And then we have, it looks like 7 items for leadership effectiveness, 6 for job satisfaction, and 5 for organizational performance. Let's go into Excel again, and we can create labels for those. So just do the first couple, then drag down to 7. Job satisfaction at 6. And organizational performance has 5. Okay. Now I can copy and paste these into variable view. So the 7 items go right here. 6 for job satisfaction here. 5 for organizational performance go right here. So now we need to save the spreadsheet, and I typically put the day, the date, and then I put the sample size. So we have 91 participants. I'm going to save this, and we'll call it sample data, today's date, and we'll say this is naming variables and adding ID column. n equals 91. So be very specific with the steps that you made to clean the data. Going back to the presentation, that covers our first steps. The next step we want to do is recode Likert scale items from string format, which are words, into numeric format. You also want to keep an eye out for reverse coding. So you may have items on your survey that are negatively phrased. So you'll want to flip the Likert scale for those questions. Sometimes you can just read the questions and you can tell that reverse coding needs to happen. The best way to know for sure is by obtaining scoring instructions for the survey that you are using. So that will make it very clear. They will tell you, hey, we need to reverse code item 2, item 4, item 6. And then you can do that in SPSS. Okay, the first thing we'll do is change anything that's string into numeric. So we do have the organizational performance scale is in string format. We want to change that to numbers. To do that, I'm going to go to transform and recode into same variables. And then I'm going to put the 5 items into this right box. And we need to identify what strongly disagree means. Is that a 1? Is that a 2? So I'm going to click this button right here. And what you can do is copy. So I'm copying from the spreadsheet, strongly disagree right here. And then pasting it. And this is the new value is going to be a 1. Continue. The next will be a disagree, which will be a 2. Then neither agree or disagree. 3. Agree is going to be a 4. And strongly agree will be a 5. Okay, so we can see the 5 different possibilities. The reason I copy and paste right here is because if you have spaces before or after, or even capitalization matters, say this D was lowercase, it's not going to recognize specifically this case. So you need to get it exactly as it is in the spreadsheet with no spaces before, after, or capitalization or spelling. Just to be safe, I copy and put it in this box and identify what it means, okay? So I can click OK right here, and that's going to change everything to numeric, but instead I'm going to click paste right here, and paste is going to create syntax. So syntax is basically code for all the procedures you are running in your spreadsheet. So it's a good way to keep a running record of all the analyses and data cleaning steps that you're doing. So you can add notes. So the notes for this are changing from string format to numeric. And to add notes, you just put an asterisk at the beginning and then a period at the end of your statement. So I can tell what's happening here. To run this code, I then highlight the code and click this green arrow. So you'll see, let me split the screen so you can see how it changes. So as I highlight this code and click the green arrow, everything is now changed to numeric format. SPSS still thinks that this is string format. As you can see, it has a little A right here. That means it thinks words are in that box. So we need to change it to numeric. So I can just change this one to numeric, copy numeric down for these as well. Okay, the next thing to look at is reverse coding. Now, I know which items need to be reverse coded because I've used this job satisfaction survey before, but it is something I would recommend reaching out to the authors of whatever instrument you used and see if they have scoring instructions. So what's negatively phrased here is this question right here. my job responsibilities are not clear, and I am not satisfied with my job security. As you look at the Likert scale for this, we want higher scores to be more indicative of higher job satisfaction. So if someone says that my job responsibilities are not clear, we want a 5 to be strongly disagree for this item and a 1 to be strongly agree. We hope that people are disagreeable with this statement so that lower scores are actually a better thing for this. Okay, so to reverse code, I'm going to go to transform and click recode into different variables instead of same variables. So we'll do different variables. And we need to put the 2 items that are negatively phrased. So that is job satisfaction 1, job satisfaction 4. These 2 items will go here. We need to give it a name. So we'll call it job satisfaction 1 reverse. Job satisfaction 4 reverse. And all reverse coding is flipping your Likert scale. So a 1 becomes a 5, 2 becomes a 4, 3 stays the same, 4 becomes a 2, and 5 becomes a 1. So just to double check, you want to see it going up the ladder and down the ladder. So 1 through 5, 5 through 1, with 3 in the middle. So it looks good. Again, I'm going to click paste, which is going to add the code for reverse coding. So this is reverse coding negatively phrased items. I'm going to go ahead and run this code. Click the green arrow, and you'll see at the end of the spreadsheet, we now have 2 new variables, job satisfaction 1 and 4 reverse coded. So let's put this in the correct spot. So job satisfaction 1 needs to go right here, 4 needs to go right here, and take your original 2 items and move them to the end of the spreadsheet. So we're not even going to use those. I like to keep them in just as a reference for what happened with the reverse coding, but you want it to be in order 1 through 6 with the reverse coded items included, which we now have. Okay, so now we can save this. And what did we do here? We changed from string to numeric and reverse coded. All right, very good. That is step 2. The next step is dealing with missing responses. So there are many ways to handle missing data depending on the reference that you may read. So like I said earlier, if you're far above your sample size requirement, then you can consider deleting any missing responses, as when you have a large sample size, it's not going to affect your results too much. But another way to handle them is by using mean imputation or median imputation, which means replacing the missing values with the average. You can also use predictive imputation. It's called multiple imputation to predict missing responses. That procedure is a little more involved. It actually can take quite a long time, 30 minutes or so, just to run that procedure. There are YouTube videos that explain it. For today's webinar, I'll show you how to do it through an average. Okay, so let's take a look at how many missing responses we have. And like I said, people that just failed to respond after consenting, just take those individuals out typically. And a quick way to identify that is by sorting any column in ascending order. So I'm just going to pick a column, sort in ascending order. That is going to bring the missing responses up to the top. We can quickly see 5 people here did not respond to anything. So I'm going to take those individuals out. Okay, so we'll highlight these rows, right click and clear. And I'm going to save again after doing that because now we have 86 people. So we'll say remove full non-responses and equals 86. Now we want to handle missing responses in the middle. So people who missed just an item here and there, I'm going to replace those missing values with the average. To do this, I'm going to go to transform. Transform, replace missing values right here. And I'm going to put everything in there, okay? Because I don't want to search through the entire spreadsheet and try to find which questions are missing one item. It's going to be quite tedious, even if, especially if you have a large spreadsheet. I would just put everything in there, replace missing values, and I'll click paste. So again, that's going to put syntax right here for replacing the missing values. This is replacing missing values with average. Let's run this code. Okay, and what this is going to do is create a duplicate of every single variable, and it's going to replace the missing value with the average. So let me see if I can find an example here. None for that variable, job satisfaction right here. So as I scroll down, job satisfaction 3 is right here. So you can see it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a decimal. So it's taken the average of this column and it's put that 2.15 right here, okay? So now we have duplicates of all the variables. I think we can eliminate the originals now. Anything that has an _1 like this is the replaced missing values duplicate, okay? So we have leadership effectiveness 1. Leadership effectiveness 1_1 is replaced with the missing values. Okay? So before I do that, I just want to put the labels for all these variables right here so I know what they were asking. So here they are, copy 1 through 7 right there. Job satisfaction 1 was right here. 2 and 3. Job satisfaction 4. And 5, 6. Okay. Very good. So now we have a complete spreadsheet. We've eliminated missing responses. We replaced the missing values with the average if a participant missed an item here and there. So now we can save again. Replace missing values with average. And I'm going to eliminate the original variables just so we don't have duplicates. All of these can come out. And now we're left with a complete data set, okay? The next thing you want to do is create composite scores. So this is a procedure when, if you're using a previously validated instrument, the scoring instructions will typically say take an average, a mean, or a sum of the respective items in that questionnaire. So we have job satisfaction, leadership effectiveness. These are a series of Likert scale questions. We don't want to look at each item on its own. We want the collective score for each variable. So I will show you how to do that. Then you want to remove outliers. So we want to identify if there are any outliers in the spreadsheet. Outliers can skew your data and the results, so you typically want to take those out. Then we will check for reliability using Cronbach's alpha. Okay, so let's create the composite scores. To do that, I will click transform and compute variable, which pops up this menu. So we need to give our composite score a name. So I'll call it leadership effectiveness overall. And I'm going to take a mean. So a mean of item 1. You can click comma, item 2, comma, item 3, comma, item 4. But if you have a lot of items, that could be tedious. So you can just put the first item and then write the word 2 and put the last item. As long as they are in order, that will work as well. I'll paste that syntax, and then let's do the next one, job satisfaction. One through 6, paste, and finally, organizational performance. And paste. Okay, so now we have code for all of the composite scores. Okay, we'll run all of this. And what this will do is create 3 variables at the end of your spreadsheet. So everybody now has a leadership effectiveness score, a job satisfaction score, and organizational performance score. These are averages of all the items in those surveys. The next thing is checking for outliers. So I'm going to go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and Descriptives. Put in the 3 variables of interest, composite scores, into this right box. And then click this button right here. This is the most important step. Click that box there, save standardized values as variables. This is going to create standardized scores centered around the mean, also called z-scores. So once I click OK, these are z-scores for the composite scores that we created. And according to this citation that I've used for years now, Tabachnik and Fidel say to remove outliers if they exceed this threshold for a z-score. So if a z-score goes beyond 3.29 or lower than negative 3.29, that is an outlier. So here are the z-scores. You can just sort these in ascending and descending order. So ascending, you can see the lowest value is negative 0.97. That is not lower than negative 3.29. So all of these are safe. Sort in descending order to look at high scores, 2.79 is lower than 3.29. So no outliers for leadership effectiveness. Likewise, job satisfaction, ascending, no outliers there. Descending, no outliers there. Organizational performance, no low outliers or high outliers. So we are in great shape. We don't need to remove any more cases due to outlying responses. So let's go ahead and save again. This is creating composite scores and checking for outliers. Then you can check for Cronbach alpha. So Cronbach alpha is telling you how consistent participants were in responding to your questionnaire. Maybe if you're in the methodology phase and you're describing your instrument, they will report a Cronbach alpha. Typically, you report reliability and validity. So Cronbach alpha is reliability. And it's a good thing to double check when you're testing it for your sample. To do this, you'll go to Analyze and Scale. Reliability analysis is what we want. Then we need to do it for each scale. So the first one we'll do is leadership effectiveness. So let's move all of these over here. Leadership effectiveness. And click paste. Okay, and then check for reliability. And we can see reliability for leadership effectiveness was 0.965. Anything above a 0.7 is acceptable in the social sciences. And what this means is that participants were consistent in how they responded to the survey. If they were generally saying, I agree on one item, on the other items, they were also agreeable, which shows that they were not randomly responding to questions and that they were reading and interpreting the questions accurately. That's how you check for Cronbach alpha. It's the same procedure for the other two instruments, so I won't do those ones as well, but they do have good reliability. Something to note is that if you have low Cronbach alpha, that might be an indicator that you need to reverse code items. So let me show you this as an example. We did reverse code items and look for job satisfaction. So remember, we have two items that we reverse coded, but what if we did not reverse code those items and we used the original? If we did not reverse code, then your Cronbach alpha is going to be very, very low. You can see right here for job satisfaction, negative 0.088. That's usually a red flag that something's not right here. If you have a negative value or just a low value in general, you probably missed a reverse coding step. So you should double check how the items were phrased. If we fix it here and put the reverse coded items, so it's 1 and 4, you can see it fixes itself. So now putting those two reverse coded items back in, it skyrockets up to 0.91 for Cronbach alpha, which is really good. So another reason to look out for reverse coding. Okay, so from there, you essentially have the final spreadsheet. You then want to run descriptive statistics to examine your demographics, look for trends in the variables of interest. Then you want to address your research questions. So maybe you propose correlations or regressions or t-tests. There are assumptions that you need to verify for those before running the analysis, like normality, linearity, homogeneity of variance. You want to verify those statistical assumptions and then present the findings of your analysis. So that concludes our webinar today. I'm now going to do a question and answer session if you have any questions. So just to reiterate, our company does assist with all parts of the dissertation. Maybe you don't need full assistance on a chapter, but you need help in a certain section. We also help hourly. So we have specialists that help with the methodology and literature review, the results chapter, discussion, PowerPoints. So if you've hit a roadblock, let us know. You can contact us at 727-442-4290 or give us an email at info@statisticsolutions.com. So if you have any questions, you can type those into the chat box. All right, looks like we have a question from John. Hi, John. So he asked that your recode of strength and numeric has a numeric width of 36. Does the numeric column field width matter? No, when you change it to numeric, it doesn't really matter what the width is. So let me open the spreadsheet. So what John is asking is, one of the first steps I did was changing organizational performance from string, which had strongly disagree, disagree. It was a Likert scale. And because it was words, the width was 36 characters in length. And then once I changed it to numeric, it's really just one character in length. It doesn't matter though. SPSS is going to recognize it's a number. So the width doesn't really come into the play. It's not a factor. Okay, and then looks like we have a question. You added your comment to the SPS syntax when you first captured the code. How did you add that comment? And yes, it's an asterisk. So right here, I was adding comments to describe what procedure was taking place. On Microsoft or Windows, I'm using Shift-8. That's the asterisk key to put in a comment. And then you need to end it with a period. If you don't end it with a period, you can't even run this code. You can see it's grayed out because it thinks that all of this is code, but it starts right here. You need to add a period, and now it's not grayed out, so you can run that code. For replacing missing variables, why did you choose a mean instead of a median for the Likert scale data? I've seen it both ways. You can choose a procedure, you just have to justify it. So you'll find arguments online for doing a mean or a median or missing data or imputation, multiple imputation. It really depends on the reference you read. You can go about it both ways. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. Looks like Isaides put some comments in the chat box. You can take a look at those. There are links for the previous webinars. We have a question from Stephanie. If I'm asking for help with the SurveyMonkey setup, is there a way to set up everything to make data collection, cleaning, and analysis easier? We can use our own company account to help you host the survey. We can upload everything for you. I don't really see anything, as long as the data in the survey is organized, you have a consent form, you have demographics, you have your Likert scale questionnaire potentially. It's not much more than that. Once you extract the data, it's actually very clean. You can download the data directly into SPSS. So, the first spreadsheet I looked at today with all of you right here, this is the first spreadsheet. This was actually extracted directly from SurveyMonkey. So this is how clean it comes out. So SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics do give the data in a very clean format. So it's pretty much ready for analysis. So we can certainly help you upload the survey. Just let us know if you need assistance. Thank you for the feedback, Bernadette. We have any additional questions? Looks like we have a question from Kazan. Could we use another code for missing data? Yeah, so that is an option as well. And that is more of a sample size thing. So if you're well above your sample size and you don't want to remove people, you can assign a missing code here to indicate people that did not respond to the survey. And then when you do analyses, it's automatically going to exclude those people. So that is an option as well. I think it hinges more on your sample size. If you're well above the sample size requirement, then like I said, you can potentially delete people altogether. But that should really be a last resort. You don't want to remove people if you can. So yeah, you can use the missing values feature. You can use imputation, as I showed. There are many ways to handle it. We have a question from Junior Paul. How can I get SPSS on my desktop? Is SPSS free to download? Unfortunately, it's not free. It's through the company IBM that you can purchase it. And if you're attending a university right now, they should have student discounts, which are considerably cheaper than just buying it on your own. So I would check in with your school to see if they can provide a discount. They usually give you a code that you can use. All right, do we have any other questions? And just to show the upcoming webinars. So we do 8 webinars a month. Today was focused more on results, but we do cover other chapters of the dissertation. So take a look at these. Okay, so we do have webinars coming up. Next week, I'll be doing a webinar on the methodology, so more developing your research questions and the hypotheses, mastering your introduction chapter. That'll be done by my colleague, Tom. We have qualitative topics coming up. So if any of you are doing a qualitative paper or maybe a mixed method study, that would be a good one to join. We have a discussion chapter webinar, how to present your quantitative results, and mastering your quantitative methodology. Some good ones coming up. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you, John. Appreciate the feedback. Do we have any other questions about today's topic? Any other questions? I'll stay on for a few more minutes. All right, looks like Ariella has a question. If you're using secondary data, do you need to do a power analysis if you have several hundred participants? Yeah, I would say go ahead and do the power analysis. It really doesn't matter if you're using secondary data or if you're collecting data primarily through a survey. A power analysis is dependent on the analyses you're going to use. So it doesn't matter how much data you already have. You want to verify whether you have enough people for the analysis. So G-Power is often used for that, which is this software right here. And because you have several hundred participants, you're probably okay, but you still want to run it just to justify that you have enough people for that analysis. Okay. Yep, you're welcome. Hi, George. Think I need, you started to write a sentence. I'll need to know a little bit more. You could retype the sentence. Are you providing a certificate of attendance? We do not provide certificates, but we will be sending everybody a copy of the webinar as well as the presentation. Maureen has a question. How do I learn to use SPSS? So there are resources online. I'll show you, I'll put a good textbook reference in the chat box. So this one right here. So Plant, their SPSS survival manual is excellent. They update it every year or so. I'm going to put that in the chat box. Copy and paste that. That's a great resource for learning how to use SPSS. Another one, if you're more of a visual learner like I am, you can go onto YouTube and let me find what I'm looking for. So if you go into YouTube and you type Todd Grande SPSS, I'll put this in the chat box as well. There we go. So this Dr. Grande, he has hundreds of videos on explaining every process in SPSS, almost all key analyses that I use on a daily basis, as well as if you put like SPSS cleaning. He discusses cleaning in SPSS, outliers, reverse coding, a lot of things I covered today, identifying outliers, transforming data. So he does really good visual depictions of how you can do these different things. I would definitely check them out. Okay, question from George. If you don't have enough people, what's next? It's a great question. So especially in the last year, due to COVID-19, I've seen a lot of studies not reach that sample size requirement that you're targeting, and it's a limitation. That's really all it is you acknowledge it as a limitation in your discussion chapter, that there were extraneous circumstances that caused you some trouble in gathering your participants. So you acknowledge it as a limitation, and you have to interpret your results with a level of caution, because your study will be underpowered if you don't have enough people. So interpret with caution, acknowledge it as a limitation, and you would recommend future studies gather more participants. I've seen some committees understand that the sample collection has been tough in the last year. Others have been more difficult and more challenging. They really want backup plans. Like if you can't collect data one way, you need to have a backup plan. So that's when you can look at things like SurveyMonkey audience or Qualtrics. SurveyMonkey audience. SurveyMonkey audience is a tool that can target participants for you. So let me just show you how this kind of works. So you can target people based on different criteria. Okay, so you could target a certain country, gender, age, income, and then they have several more options here. Employment status, industry, maybe you're looking for a particular industry. So you can pay SurveyMonkey to help find people to take your survey. So this is a option that I recommend to people if they're having trouble targeting their own population. You can use SurveyMonkey. The only problem with this is it can get kind of expensive. The more criteria you add, the more expensive it can range from $1 response up to $4 to $5 per response, the more criteria that you add. Okay, so overall, I would say interpret with caution. You don't have enough people. Recommend that future studies do gather more participants, and then have a backup plan would be the other option. Okay, I'm using PRAMS data and it does not have enough population of African American women. So if it's secondary data, it's just going to be a limitation. I think that's pretty much all you can say. If you can't collect more data, you just have to acknowledge that the sample size is low. So we need to be cautious in our interpretation of the results. You're welcome. Yep, glad to help. Do we have any other questions? Let's see. Actually, no, I answered that question already. Do we have any final questions? Alrighty, thanks for joining everyone. Just to reiterate that we're going to send everyone a copy of this presentation tomorrow in the webinar. Come join us for the future webinars. It looks like the next one will be on Tuesday, next Tuesday, and that'll be about mastering the discussion chapter. I will be doing a webinar next Wednesday again about developing research questions and hypotheses and discussing the best analyses for research questions. Come join us for that one. Let us know if you've hit a roadblock in the dissertation. You can contact us at the number provided in the presentation here, as well. You can email us. But yeah, keep us posted. Look forward to hearing from you and join us for the next webinars. Have a great evening.